Hello everyone, Prime here, and today we're going to be going after a much requested god, Hades. So, if you want to find out more about Hades, his facts, lore, stories, and all that good stuff, then you're in the right place, and let's begin. After Zeus defeated the monstrous Titan Cronus, Hades was one of the fortunate siblings to be freed from the Titan's stomach. The surviving brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, there were more surviving siblings, but these were the top three with any claims to any lands immediately, drew lots to fairly divide the universe's many realms and planes of existence. Hades drew the worst lots and ended up with the underworld. But despite what you might think, Hades did not directly represent death. No, Thanatos was the specific reference to death in Greek mythology. He was not as sexually devious as Zeus or Poseidon, but how could he be? He was infertile and incapable of producing offspring. That doesn't necessarily mean that he couldn't enjoy himself in that way, it's just he wouldn't be able to spread his DNA in that sense. But what he lacked in this area, he more than made up for in greed. As beautifully detailed in the Smite comic book series, Hades sought to vastly increase his number of worshippers or subjects, and so he favored those who could cause the death of others, in whatever way they could possibly imagine doing so. So if you were a killer, murderer, or did something of that nature by accident, Hades was your chap. Remember the birth of Aphrodite, the result of Cronus getting his gentleman removed? Well, the droplets of blood that fell towards Gaia's seas spawned the Erinyes. Now, they were female exclusively, and they were all goddesses, but they took vengeance against those who had not been true to an oath or had acted in an evil way. Unfortunately, though, they were prone to tormenting their victims once they had been readied for their attention. Orestes committed matricide after his mother murdered his father. And of course, the Erinyes were not too happy about this and tantalized Orestes, urging him to seek the aid of the Oracle of Delphi. Soon enough, this was followed by a trial at which the Erinyes demanded blood and threatened the Athenians. Athena was able to solve the situation through a mixture of threats and careful bargaining. So Orestes was absolved of this crime, and the Erinyes were honored guests in the underworld. The ancient Greeks were terrified of uttering the name Hades, so much so that they even changed his name entirely to Pulton. If you go back farther enough, the name Pulton meant in Greek society at one point wealth and gold and silver and all valuable metals originating from underneath the earth. And thanks to this, Hades was eventually considered to be a god of wealth. So why we don't have a sort of Swagny style skin or just big money gentleman style skin for Hades, I have no idea, but it would make a ton of sense. In combat, Hades was armed with a pitchfork that could summon earthquakes, kind of similar to Poseidon, but they didn't have to worry about copyright in those days, so Hades got off free. Also, he was given a helmet of invisibility by a Cyclops, which is quite lucky for Hades. Didn't necessarily prove to be useful all the time, because there was this one point where, even though he was invisible, he was still injured in the leg whilst using this helmet, but what can you do? You remember the story of how Hades and Persephone became a couple? Zeus helped Hades to kidnap Persephone by opening up a crack underneath her feet under the earth. Demeter was very unpleased with Zeus because he allowed their daughter to escape and get into Hades' clutches, so she promised to introduce famine into the world until their daughter was returned. So, soon enough, Hades allowed Persephone to return, but before going, she had to eat pomegranate seeds, which then forced Persephone to return to the underworld, which ushered in winter, which is why we have winter. During winter, Persephone is in the underworld. What I didn't mention about that story is that not only did Zeus disguise himself as Hades in order to satisfy his greater urges, he was also the father of Persephone. So, yes, Zeus committed a bit of that good old glorious colourful word, that. So, yeah, Zeus is a lot nastier than he thought. Hades also has proven himself to be arguably more human than a lot of the other Greek gods. Orpheus joined an expedition of the Argonauts. If not for him, they may have fallen to the musical charms of the sirens, but Orpheus's musical talents were so great that he was not able to just defeat the sirens, but allow them to leave his crew alone as they continued on their journey. After the great journey with the Argonauts, Orpheus swiftly wed Eurydice. She was slain by a snake bite. When, at what point, I'm not too sure, but she was slain by this bite, and Eurydice was very, very depressed about this. He was so depressed, in fact, that he travelled to the underworld, where he seduced Charon, the ferryman, Cerberus, the great guard dog of the underworld, and the gods positioned at the river Styx, with his musical talents. He was even able to move Hades and Persephone with these talents, and Hades agreed to let the hero leave with his wife. But there was one catch. Neither partner was to look back upon the underworld. If they were, then, well, what would happen next would not be Hades' concern, or fault. Eurydice and Eurydice waste no time climbing up and out of Hades' realm, and Oropus wanted to gaze upon the beautiful sunset at the underworld. So, he turned back and boom, Eurydice started to disappear, which is a bit tragic, a bit unfortunate, but he did bring it upon himself, and Hades isn't a douchebag. So, you could argue that Hades is a douche for even planting this condition in the first place, but it wasn't really a difficult one to follow, really, for the average person, I'm assuming, so, Also, during the 12 trials of Hercules, Hades let the warrior borrow Cerberus, the giant god dog who was said to have 3 heads, signifying youth, the other signifying middle-aged or the present, and the last signifying the future or old age. It was also said, in some myths, that if you were to gaze upon Cerberus, kind of similar to Medusa, that you would turn to stone, but that seems pretty impractical. And also, Eurystheus, the king who Cerberus was being brought to, probably would have been turned to stone if this was the case. So, yeah. Though Hades was being generous in this case, he didn't just give Hercules Cerberus, he did make Hercules fight Cerberus in a similar manner to how Cucullin, in his youth, fought off a few of the god dogs near his hometown. So there's that. If you need any more examples of Hades being generous, then look no further than Sisyphus and the whole deal that happened between Hades and Sisyphus. Hades allowed Sisyphus to return to the realm of the living under very specific circumstances to honor a tradition, and Sisyphus took advantage of Hades' kindness. So, you see, Hades didn't really have much of a reason to allow Sisyphus to return to the living other than to honor tradition, because it was Sisyphus and his wife who would generally be taking the fall or great punishment should Sisyphus not return to the realm of the living, but he allowed Sisyphus to do so anyway, and Hades even lost out on a bit of an extra soul for a bit, so. He got Sisyphus' soul in the end, but it took a while, and Hades was grumpy about this. But you all remember when I said Hades was infertile, right? Somehow, he still managed to be credited with having 3 children. Now, Cerberus was apparently the result of Zeus and Persephone getting together, which is still quite disgusting. But Marcaria and Melone are different cases, and aren't too directly explained. However, Marcaria was said to be a possible love interest of Thanatos. That didn't actually work out that way, but still. Last thing that I'll mention is that Hades has also been shown to display quite ungodly traits such as fear. Even though Cerberus, his very own god dog, is the son of Typhonus and Echinda, he was still trembling whilst Zeus was battling with this great many-headed beast. So there's that. Hades isn't exactly without fear. You would expect him to be because of his job and what he's generally around most of his time, but no, Hades can feel fear, just like you or I. Okay, time for some good old viewer interaction. You like viewer interaction, right? Good. Well, I said I was going to display some of the most interesting comments, or just very nice comments that I found throughout my comment section, in some upcoming videos. I haven't done that yet, so we may as well do it now. So I typed in Hades in my comment search bar, because apparently I can do that, and picked out some comments that I thought were pretty interesting, or just nice from some of the videos that we've had. So, starting us off, we have Desi Valentine, who says that in Hellenism, Greek mythology, after Thanatos has taken you to the underworld to be judged by Hades, you could end up in one of three places. The Elysian Fields, if you were a good person and done no evil, the Asphodel Meadows, for those that were neither good nor evil, and then, of course, Tartarus, for those who were evil. I'm a Hellenist, and I'm pretty sure that Mount Olympus isn't where you would go if you died and were a good person, but it's up to debate. Even if you did, you must have done something to impress or anger the gods that they would want an audience or you in Olympus. If the gods did suddenly decide to just randomly spawn you into Mount Olympus, you must get a sense of honor, pride, and all of that good stuff, even if you assumed it was for a bad reason, which I suppose that sense of pride and honor would swiftly go away if it was for a bad reason, but hey, you'd at least probably win a Guinness World Record for having the largest poop stain known to man, so there's that. Okay, this is like the 5th attempt at me trying to pronounce that name. I apologize, I'm just going to skip it. Everyone, we can see the name, and we can see how difficult it is to pronounce, please forgive me. But Hades is the way to go. He is shining light of all those asshole brothers. We know why the Morrigan is great, am I right? First up, yes, we all know why the Morrigan's great. But I suppose, yeah, Hades really is the shining light of the, as you say, asshole brothers. Like Poseidon and Zeus pretty much dicks to everyone under the sun, with the except few who they weren't dicks to, which probably suited them better in the situations that they weren't. I say probably, and I'm speaking hypothetically because I'm not 100% sure about this, and I couldn't give you very many, if any, examples of this. So, yeah. Whereas Hades is probably the nicer person. If they were all like real-life people, had all their powers removed, Hades would probably be the more relatable and just nicer person to be around. So, there's that. Obviously, your name is some sort of Japanese, Mayan, Egyptian trap, but if you could kindly tell me how I'm supposed to pronounce it in the comment section, that would be great. That's what happens when you fuse brilliant with great. I meant great. Milan Nikolov says, Hades is very wrong. Death from below and his two are okay, but why Pillar of Agony and not ability with Cerberus, maybe like Guan Yu? Completely agree with this. It would make a lot more sense for Hades to, I don't know, have an ability that made a reference to the river Styx, or as you say, summon Cerberus as a pet. Maybe have a mount where he's charging forward, or using Cerberus to drag someone somewhere, a bit similar to Capri's One. I don't know, you could do anything, endless things with Cerberus. Make him act a bit like Bastet's cat, but just as a giant scary dog that would make you, for 2 seconds and only 2 seconds, hate dogs, because everyone loves dogs and you're not allowed to not like dogs for longer than 2 seconds. But yeah, Hi-Rez is good at missing boats, just like how they missed the boat with making Loki more of a magician caster-style character rather than the Assassin's Creed wannabe-style character that we got, but you know, it is what it is. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and leave a like, as it does help me out more than you might imagine. And of course, if you're new to the channel and want to see more content just like this, subscribe. Thank you very much for making it this far though, and until the next video, have a very good day. I've been Prime, and I'll see you in a few. Bye bye.